Hello everyone, this is Luther Flagson with Vistas.com, and today I'm going to be reverse engineering a viz that I made recently to see if I can remember how I did it. So it's only been a couple of days, but there's some new tricks and techniques that I've learned along the way, and so I'm going to see if I can refresh my memory and recall how these were put together. So the first thing to note is that I got the ideas or the concepts for this from Luke Stanky, and I'll just show you his article here at his website, Tessellation. So it's the ultimate guide to tables in Tableau pagination. It's got a couple of different parts here that shows you how to go through each of the pieces and build something where you have this functionality where you're shifting through however many tables there are that make up the entire table. So the one that I made isn't going to get this fancy, but it does allow you to have a similar functionality while using a wildcard filter, which I think is a new use case, or at least new to me. So let's get into it. So here's the dashboard, and this came from the challenge from Mark Bradford, the new one, the real world fake data, hashtag RWFD. I'm getting that right. And he provided a data set on a human resource data set of a big list. I think there's 22,000 and some employees, and there's information about the employees in here, and the goal was to put together a dashboard. Well, I'm still kind of scared of putting together dashboards just off the top of my head. I guess what I wanted to do was to try to be a little inventive and try to go a different route. So I thought about trying to make a directory, and this was the result. We've got the directory listed or ordered by the ID number. So it starts out with the lowest ID number here. If you go to the last, click on the last entry, it goes to the very highest ID number. You can do a wildcard search in here. So let's say the ID starts with 21-8. Hit enter. So that's going to jump to the first entry there. And if you use the arrows, it's going to scroll through one at a time. And if you hit the last, it's going to go to the last instance that matches that wildcard search. And if you get to the end and you click the arrows, it won't let you go any further. Likewise, at the bottom, if you're at the first entry and you try to go left, you're not going to get any lower than the first entry that matches this criteria. So if we X that out and we're at the first one, the arrows are just going to respond to whatever the group of members are based off of your filter up here. Okay, so that's what it looks like. This is a photo, or where you would insert a photo, and it lines up with each of the. Actually, let's see. I think I put a blank sheet over here. Oh yeah, I did. Okay, so I just put a blank object on top of here so that the user couldn't click around on this. But now you can see that this is actually a mark in the sheet here. So let's look at these one by one. We've got the employee card. This is just a bunch of string calculations. I don't know if this is best practice, but I wanted it to look like this. So I had to create each of these dimensions from a whole bunch of concatenated strings. So if we go up to card full name, take a look at that one. It's just going to be a bunch of blank spaces so that we get that indent look, and then the word name, colon, plus another space, plus full name, which is another calculation, and that's just last name, comma, first name. If we go over to, say, one of these, now once we get down here to hire date, then I had to put in the hire date and the term. So this one's going to look kind of crazy. So this one looks like this. You've got the hire date, plus a bunch of space, plus the term date, if there was a term date. If it's null, then it's going to say none. Otherwise, it's going to display the date because there wasn't always a term date for everyone. And I didn't want it to just be blank. Okay, so you get the idea. And then the magic that makes this work is the index function, and you see the index function a lot in table calculations. It allows you to do all kinds of really neat stuff. I know it also allows you to do things like radial bar charts and a lot of the stuff that you'll see on the Tableau Magic website as well. And that one is just simply index, with nothing in the parentheses there. Okay, so we've got index in front of all these dimensions. I'm going to take a look at the table calculation here. So just remember this, I'm not going to open this again after I get rid of the filter because there's just way too many marks and Tableau has crashed on me twice now, so I'll just have to look at this and remember. So we've got this to compute on specific dimensions for all of the dimensions that we have here, plus the dimension that's on our marks. Okay, so and full name is at the top there. Okay. I think that's it. I think that's all I need to say here. All right, so now if we get rid of this filter and show the header, you can see that what's happening behind the scenes here is that the index has ordered all of these different marks, the 22,000 different marks. Okay, and the way that I got this custom image on here was I made this image in Figma, saved it in my shapes folder in my Tableau repository, and then on here what you can do is you can just assign it to all of these different marks. There was a way that I assigned it to every single mark at the exact same time. How did I do that? I cannot remember off the top of my head because there's 22,000 of them and they all don't show up on the list, but somehow I was able to assign it to every single one of them at the same time. And I think I might have, I don't remember. I'll have to follow up with you guys and see if I can remember how I did that again. Anyway, let's undo showing of the header and get our filter back. So how did we filter down to just one single mark here? So what I did was I made a parameter. This is following what Luke Stanky has done. So it is data type integer, current value 1, and all values are possible. And then this is page number equals index. So what I've done is just set the page number equal to index, and then set that on true. So now, let's go back here. Oh yeah, my wildcard search was still on 21. Let me get rid of that. Okay, so now we should be back to the first person with the lowest number we are. Okay, so our parameter is on 1, and this person, Kimmy Walsinski, is in the first index position, so the first row in the database based off of ID number. Okay, got that page down. Now looking back here, we're going to want to make our arrows so that you move one index to the left by pressing here, and one index to the right by pressing here. So let's go look at left. This is just a Unicode left arrow on text, and then you can change the size of that as well to make it a little bit bigger. And then here's page number -1. So let's take a look at that. Page number -1. This is a calculation that's going to say, I mean, essentially, at a minimum, you just need page number -1. But we want it to bottom out, so we don't want it to be able to go into the negatives or even to 0, because if we go index 0, Tableau starts index at number 1. So if you go to 0, it's going to disappear, your mark's going to disappear. So in this case, we have if the page number is equal to 1, then return 1. And that just keeps it at 1 and doesn't allow it to go any lower than that. But otherwise, if you're at any other number than 1, then you're going to want to subtract from the page number each time you click on it. Okay, so very good. Then to get that functionality to work, we're going to need to add a parameter action. So remember, we've got a parameter page number. We'll go up here to dashboard actions, and on our left arrow, we're going to add a parameter action to that sheet on select. There's our target parameter. We've only got one. And there's our field. So we're selecting our field and setting the aggregation to none. Oh, I should mention that this field, when you drag it out there, it's going to aggregate it as by default. But what you want to do is you want to set that to a continuous dimension. And that's going to allow us to have this parameter action work here. So that was a key point. I'll come back to that. So, okay, so left arrow, edit. Okay, so now we're back. Again, aggregation none. Okay. So now when you click, I'm just going to click right a couple of spots here. Just to show you, if we go left, back to our first entry, and we try to press left again, nothing's going to happen because we're already at index 1. All right, very good. So let's check out the right arrow. Now this one was a little trickier because the idea was that you want to be able to limit how far it can go to the right based off of the wildcard filter. So we've got here page number +1. And what it's going to do is it's going to count the number of IDs that are showing. So we've got our ID on our context filter. And then we're going to count how many IDs match that wildcard. So it's a similar looking calculation. If the page number is equal to count ID, then count ID. Otherwise, add 1 to it. And then the important thing is to back on your employee card to make sure that you also put this on detail, because then the way that this works is that our filter is applied to our employee card, of course, but it's also being applied to this right arrow, so that when you filter the wildcard, it's going to filter down on this arrow as well, and you'll get an accurate count of your ID. All right, so that's right and left. And then let's go first, because I think this one's simpler too. So we've got a calculation on here. Go to first. Edit that one. See what that looks like. Okay, so this is just whatever page number you're at, subtract that same page number, and then add 1 to it. So we'll just go back to index 1. And again, this is a dimension continuous dimension. Okay, now what about last? Let's see what last looks like. Last is going to be a similar logic to the right arrow. So it's going to be page number minus page number plus whatever count of the ID is. So it's going to zero out the index, and then it's going to go to the last biggest index that you have. That's on aggregate here because we have a count in our calculation. When you put this on detail, you actually don't have the option to make it a dimension. But that's okay because we can use our filter also on our last sheet. All right, very good. So now what is left to talk about here? So, oh yeah, so the auto deselect. So what's happening is when you click on this sheet, the mark that's on the sheet, I only have to click once, and then it's going to automatically deselect itself. Now, how do you get that functionality? Well, this comes from Luke directly on his article that I showed you at the beginning. Well, what you'll need to do is, and he suggests, I don't think it has to be true and false, but he suggests making these two booleans, one false and one true. You know, it's just true. And then this one's false. You can also just double click in here and type in here and then drag the pill into here. Sometimes a little quicker to do it that way. Okay, so you've got these two set on dropped on detail. We're going to go ahead and do a dashboard action on filter. The source sheet rather is right, is that sheet. The target sheet now is also right, but instead of choosing a field, you're actually just targeting the sheet, and clearing the selection will show all of the values. And now the target filter is going to be on select fields, and you're going to set, let me edit this one to show you it. You're going to set true as the source and false as the target, so that when you click it, it essentially refreshes the sheet. That's kind of the idea here. And therefore it's deselecting the mark. This has been done for each of these 4 sheets, same exact thing. If you look at it, it's got the same fields on detail and the same idea behind the filter action. That's about it. There you go. That's how it was built, and now I think I have a little bit better idea of how to do it again in the future, and I hope you do as well. Thanks so much.